Hey, welcome back to the Mentored Engineer. We just finished our repair of the roller coaster and our recertification of it after Megan got stuck on it, so we're about ready to go here. All right, let's go.
Hey, I don't know if that's a good idea. We got a little track issue down here.
What do you mean a track issue?
Well, it looks like we got a brawl out on one of the rails.
Oh, yeah, that looks bad. I wonder how bad it is. Look pretty bad?
Looks pretty bad.
Oh! That's bad. You didn't tell me the rail wasn't there.
Well, half of it was there.
But what about the other half?
Well, it was there, and now it's over there, and some over there.
I thought it could jump over the gap. I thought it'd be okay. Apparently it doesn't work that way. Ah. Yeah, so what we have here is brittle failure. Apparently we used it and it was just way too cold, and luckily it's near the bottom of the hill, so the rider was just, you know, a little bit scratched up. Not too bad. There's some briar right there, so that didn't help. So probably get some cash. Anyway. All right, well that was all good and fun, but it's time to get serious because something bad happened. All right, we had a fracture and luckily it wasn't terrible as far as the outcome of it, but it could have been a lot worse. So we need to find out what's going on and how do we prevent it from ever happening again. So it's interesting to see the difference in failure methods. This track failed catastrophically, whereas in all my testing, it just kind of squished itself until, you know, there wasn't anything left. It just, you know, squished, and we called that a failure. But the track stayed intact. So what's going on? So if you imagine this is just like a piece of glass where it gives no warning that it's going to break, as opposed to, say, bending a paper clip back and forth where you see, you know, I'm stretching the material and eventually it is going to break and oh, it's getting close. We can see those. But with this, we couldn't. It just happened. And that's the difference between something called brittle and ductile. Now, steel is a very ductile material and you can bend it back and forth like that paper clip a long time. However, glass, it just gives no warning and it's over before we know it. So the question is why did it break like this time and it only deformed in the previous times? And that's a great question. The thing is that we need to understand how temperature plays a factor in here. When I was doing all those tests in my shop, it was about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. However, when we rode the roller coaster, it was 50 degrees outside, but that night it had gotten down to the upper 20s, 26, 28, something like that. So we tested this kind of early in the morning and didn't give it enough time to warm up. So the temperature of the track may have only been 30, 33 degrees, something of that nature. So we were in brittle land. So I went on the internet superhighway thing and found out that there is something called a ductile brittle transition temperature, or DBTT. This is the temperature at which the material starts transforming between ductile and brittle, hence the name. And I looked it up for PVC, and for rigid PVC, which is what we're using, it is somewhere between negative 10 degrees Celsius and 1 degree Celsius. So the upper limit of that being about 34 degrees. So we were probably right in this transition temperature range when we rode the roller coaster, meaning that it's colder than that, so it's a brittle material. If we would have just waited maybe 45 minutes to an hour, probably would have been just fine as a ductile material. So now that we know this information, what are we going to do with it? Well, 34 degrees, it's kind of not, I don't want to be riding the line, okay? So now we're saying to ride the roller coaster, it needs to be at least 40 degrees and has to have been at least 40 degrees for the previous 3 hours before it. So this new requirement should hopefully solve this problem by getting us to a temperature where it has ample time to get through that transition period all the way through the material and be a ductile material by the time we use it. So now that we've addressed the root cause of the ductile versus brittle fracturing, we need to now assess how much work we have to do. So obviously we have to replace that section of track right there. So what we now need to consider is, are there other sections of track that we need to replace, or do we need to replace just about all of it? And the answer is no. The reason I say that is because I went and reviewed some of the footage that I had, and it looks like this very specific spot gets hammered in two ways. First, it's in a positive G hill of 3 Gs. But the other thing is that it rocks really hard right there. And this creates a double or triple loading effect on that one particular piece of track. So this was one of the only spots that I could find where there was a lot of roll or lateral loads that were impacting how the track was loaded. And it really comes from the fact that the inside track is about 4 inches too low. And it's causing the rider to roll inward, and that gives it a high impact load, which is why it broke there and not anywhere else. So, you know, I've never been happy with this drop. So we're gonna retrack it, I think, for the 4th time. So I think this will be the 5th different configuration. But what we noticed when looking at videos in the past was when it gets to this point, it starts rocking really hard this way, probably right in this spot. It gets a, you know, just a really heavy side-to-side load. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna replace the track from right here, about 3/4 of the way up the other hill, to the next section. And we're actually gonna raise this spot up about 4 inches so that it's more laterals going on the other side, or just, you know, playing up and down like they're supposed to be perpendicular to the track. So we got some pipe. We're gonna start forming it and replace some sections. Woo! Thank you for watching The Mentored Engineer. We appreciate your time in watching this. Please, if you liked what you saw, please hit that like button and subscribe if you like.